Hello and welcome to the Bear Right Trail Pod. This is the place to talk East Coast trail running, and on today's episode, we are here to discuss and preview the Hellgate 100K. This is the brainchild of an ultra trail legend, David Horton. The race is in its 22nd year and is a declared favorite of the race director and many others, including some of our guests tonight. One of the things about this race is it starts at midnight in the dead of winter, courses its way through the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it presents a unique challenge to each year's accepted entrants. There is a panel, I guess, with that. And the race really, it celebrates its returners. The first page of the results for this race shows the people who have finished the race, listing those who have finished it every single time of its running, so 21 times. And that goes down through those having one finish. I'm hoping to be counted among them this year. Two of our panelists, our guests tonight, of experience and finishes at Hellgate. The one here, looking like he's straight from an audition for the Broadway adaptation of Gangs of New York, is a two-time finisher, and also my ride to the start, Carl Bligan. Welcome, Carl.
Howdy, how you guys doing?
Good to have you here, man.
Yeah, good to be here.
Good. And joining us from the saltiest little lake in Utah is an East Coast transplant, and I think everyone's favorite follow on Instagram. Also a two-time finisher at Hellgate and one-time champion, I believe. Shit in the woods himself, Mr. Mike McGonigal.
What's up, Sam? What's
McMonagle.
up, Carl?
Sorry, McGonigal. What am I? I think this is Harry Potter now.
It's all good. I say McGonagall half the time too. It just rolls off easier. What's up, you guys? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to have you here. Mike, I do have a hard-hitting question here at the start of the pod, and I think this is something that everybody wants to know, and it's, does a Bear Right Trail Pod shit in the woods?
Of course it does.
Okay, there we go. All right, well, we got that out of the way. I am, of course, your host, Sam Kirk, and or as you know, those who might be joining us from the West Coast now, I didn't know Brett Hornig was going to be here. You know, that's kind of the other piece, the other part of this is that a little bit of a doppelganger for him, I guess. I like to I like to watch the different Aravaipa and Western States coverage and dress up in whatever Brett Hornig is wearing and take a picture of that for my own Instagram. That's just my little my little thing.
Love it.
But welcome, guys. It is so awesome to have you here. Really excited for the discussion tonight.
Yeah, it's a great race, and I'm looking forward to talking about it. It's a race I can wax poetic about for a long time.
Yeah.
Same.
Well, yeah. How's training going, guys? Carl, let's start with you.
It's pretty good. I'm in the taper right now. I'm going a little bit crazy. We just had a lot of snow dump over us last night, so I'm not really looking forward to going outside. But overall, I've had a couple solid weeks. Not last week, the week before, I got in a good about Hellgate's length of miles and about 17,000 feet of climbing, all on Pennsylvania Wilds trails. So
Nice.
that was like my big peak week leading into the race. Other than that, just kind of taking it easy. I've been doing a lot of headlamp miles based on my work schedule, just because I have to either run early in the morning or after work at like six in the evening. So I've done a lot more headlamp miles this year than I did the previous 2 years. So I'm hoping that that works out in my favor.
I would expect it might. Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Mike?
Yeah. To be honest, it's been kind of an interesting couple months. Um, yeah, like training overall, I think is going well. I haven't felt good running for most of the last 2 or 3 months, but I've been running okay. Like I've been running well, and I don't know, doing workouts that are going well and everything. So, um, yeah, it's a little bit of a weird training period and like weird feeling going into a race because I've got this like herniated disc in my back that just it flared up again
Mm.
in September, and it the way that it presents itself is this kind of like vice grip feeling down like my glutes and into my hamstrings and around to my quads sometimes, like, so it mostly presents itself in my legs, and like running just doesn't feel good, but like I can kind of do it pretty pretty okay. So it's a very weird feeling and a very weird place to be in. Um, for a little while, it was looking like maybe Hellgate wasn't the right idea for me. I'm still
Mm.
not sure it's the best idea for me, but like I love the race so much, and like I said, the runs I've been doing, the workouts I've been doing are still going pretty well. Um, and just a couple days ago, all of a sudden, like my back started feeling a lot better, so maybe that was really good timing.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it's a
Well, if it's
different kind of a
yeah.
different one.
Yeah, I mean, if it's any consolation, I don't think that any of this is a very good idea, for any of us. So, I mean, uh, I do think that we should probably seek more professional help than we get. And I've been experiencing some of that same stuff as far as like the workouts, the runs, like they're going fine, but a lot of times they don't feel great. And every once in a while, I'll pop off one and it does feel really good. But
Yeah.
it's not super regular right now. So, and I can relate to you there. Um, and yeah, but just wanted to see how you guys are, coming along with that, how things are going, try to get the inside scoop there on my competition. That's really what actually the podcast is about. Um, and but also wanted to know, uh, just a little bit more about both of you. I know you both a little bit, but not a lot. Um, and wanted to talk about, some of the, connections with the East Coast, what you love about it, um, what might bring you back to the East Coast from time to time, Mike, with you, and then um, Carl, I know you're racing up and down the East Coast. Um, but Mike, let's start with you and your connections on the East Coast here.
Yeah, I grew up in Maryland. I live in Salt Lake City now. I've been here since like 2017. Um, but I grew up in Maryland, and my first ultra was the North Face 50 miler in like Northern Virginia back when that was a thing. Um, so yeah, like those East Coast sort of mid-Atlantic trails is really where I started trail and ultra running. And I did a number of the races kind of, especially in like the Maryland, Virginia region, in my first few years as an ultra runner, before I started kind of moving around a bit more around the country and ultimately settled down out here in Salt Lake City. But yeah, so I think for that reason, there's definitely a lot of nostalgia that comes with East Coast trail running to me. So that's definitely like a big piece of it, is that like pun not necessarily intended, but it is sort of my roots, right? Like are those just sort of low key, dirt baggy, like just Virginia type trail races in the woods. One thing I always love though, that's not just the nostalgic piece, but like something that always really drew me to the community there or to the races in the East Coast is like there is this just um, really just like low key sense of like core community. And I just love, like I always joke that like an East Coast trail race is generally just like a bunch of Subarus parked at like a random lot in the woods somewhere, and like that's the start and finish line probably. And like um I don't know, there's just like a really cool like running for running's sake sort of sense of like love for the trails, love for the sport kind of community, that really keeps drawing me back. And then maybe the third piece is like Um, yeah, I don't know, it's just totally different, right? Like East Coast trail running, Mountain West trail running, like West Coast, California, PNW, Western deserts. Like these are all like totally different environments and totally different trails, totally different scenery. I love it all because they're all like just totally unique and special, I think, in their own ways. For East Coast trail running, for me, it is the woods. It's like it's where shit in the woods was born. Was really like the idea for that was like I just loved doing shit in the woods growing up in Maryland, and I think of the woods and especially Hellgate as like it's kind of like this gauntlet feeling of like I'm just you're going into the woods to get the most out of yourself. There's not a whole lot of like real special views or anything like that. It's like you and the woods and the trail and see what you can get out of yourself um and then ultimately end up back at the line in the dirt finish line and hang out with all your buds. So yeah, all those kinds of things just really keep bringing me back. Plus, obviously, logistics speaking, we Leah and I combine a lot of our East Coast race trips with family visits because we still have a lot of family in the area.
Yeah, you gotta, double down. It makes sense. Makes sense. Carl, how about you, bud?
So, I was born and raised in Valley Forge, lived there for basically my entire life before moving up to Lock Haven, that's where I'm currently based out of right now. Moved for work. I work for Wawa, which, if for anybody listening that's not familiar with Wawa, Wawa is the best convenience store in the country. You can suck it if you disagree.
Get
We're
some
bringing Wawa.
hoagies.
Yeah, exactly. We're bringing Wawa to North Central Pennsylvania. I'm going to be the assistant general manager of a store at up in Williamsport.
Let's
Um,
go. We got to get a
but
Wawa
getting
versus Sheets conversation going.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So well, actually, where my store is being built right now, I could literally look out the window and see a Sheets.
Oh, that's so
Oh
East
man.
Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and now with this podcast, there's probably going to be a whole Royal Farms contingent, you know,
oh
coming up and talking about fried chicken. So
Not
who
even the
man,
same
knows?
conversation.
no, no, not even close. But to the running side of things, weirdly, despite being from Pennsylvania, a lot of my running roots I trace back to Virginia. My dad has been a member of Virginia Happy Trails Running Club. Shout out to VHTRC. For a good number of years, he's the course director for two of their biggest races, the Macedon 100 and the Bull Run 50. So I have a lot of friends down there, a lot of connections down there. My first ultra was in Pennsylvania. It was the Iron Masters Challenge 50K, but basically I would say more than half the ultras I've done since then have been in Virginia. A lot of them on Macedon Mountain. Um, the HTRC has done a whole lot of. They constantly do a lot of what we call fat ass runs on the Macedon trails and around the general Virginia area. There's 50Ks. They do an annual one called the Ring, and they also have one called Reverse Ring. It's clockwise and counterclockwise runnings of the Macedon Trail, which is about 71 miles of rocks. They do that every year. So that's how I kind of fell in love with ultra running. And in addition to VHTRC, they have the best aid stations in the entire world. And even the fat ass races, you won't find better support anywhere in the country. Just whatever you need is there. And going on to Hellgate, my connection to Hellgate actually goes back to the first edition of it. And that's not because I ran it, but my dad ran the first five editions.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and both
Nice.
he and Horton will wax poetic about that first race. Basically, they didn't have to use their headlamps for the entire night. It was a full moon. There was snow on the ground, and there was magic in the air. And even if you were to ask Horton about what he felt about that first year, you get a little twinkle in his eye. You can see that he just has such a strong love for the race. And back in 20, I've ran the race three times. DNF last year, we finished twice. Uh, my first race in 2021, I signed up just kind of hoping to get that same kind of magical experience, and I did. It's just the midnight start. It adds another level of challenge, but at the same time, it kind of it levels the playing field, so everybody has to run in the dark. I love that aspect of it, and also it just I kind of grew to love that midnight start. I don't know why, but it just works for me. Um, So yeah, lots of love for my Virginia trail running family.
Yeah, well, let's get right into it. I mean, you got to start it into Hellgate here, so you have those two finishes, that midnight start that we're talking about. Um, so far, seems like a big plus for the race for you. I know that when I've mentioned that in passing to non ultra running people, they're like, "Are you effing crazy? Like you're starting a run at midnight in December in the middle of the Blue Ridge Mountains." Um, Mike, what is has been your take on this race, the format? What's bringing you back?
Yeah, I think Hellgate is like quintessential trail running, like quintessential trail ultra running in my mind. I also love the midnight start. I love nighttime running, and I think nighttime running is one of the coolest things about ultra running. Obviously, there's a ton of different brands of ultra running where you never do run at night, but kind of like Carl said, I love the fact that like everybody has to do it for at least 7 hours or so at Hellgate. Because I think like in my mind, like technical trails in the dark, running by headlamp, like in whatever conditions you're gonna get, like it's just pretty quintessential defining like ultra trail running in my mind. So that's one of the things that I really really love about it. I also think I love the distance. I don't know, like 100K ish is I think a really really fun distance. The point to point nature of it, you feel like you're getting something done, you're going somewhere. Um, yeah, like the 12, it's a 12:01 a.m. start, and so at like the strike of midnight, this group of like 140 people standing in the dark next to some rusty gate singing the national anthem. Like it's just freaking cool, dude. Like it's just a vibe, and I'm here for it. Um, and then yeah, I think it's a challenging course, so like it definitely tests everybody no matter what, and like the conditions, man, like I've been there 3 times also, 2 finishes and a DNF. My
Oh
first,
wow.
I think my first time at Hellgate was a DNF, maybe in like 2015 or 2016, um, with like some kind of injury. But I think that year it was like maybe in the teens and dry, like it was super super cold. The second year I did it was like 2018, and it was probably very very good conditions, but I went I had the vision problems that I heard like everybody that talks about Hellgate, you hear them talk about Hellgate eyes and like losing your vision. So that was 2018. That was my first finish, and then but it was like great conditions. And then 2019 it was like maybe some of the worst there's ever been. Like it was in the 30s and raining at the start and for the entire night. Like some of the like gravel road climbs were sheets of ice. Um, so yeah, just 3 like totally different experiences in my 3 years there. And so that's another thing I love about it is like you don't really know what you're going to get, but you know you're going to be challenged.
So I don't think I saw I didn't check the year, but was that third rainy, icy year the year that you won?
Yeah, it was.
That checks out. That really checks out, Mike, because it's a race through the night in shitty conditions, and you persevere. That checks out. That's what I remember from Grindstone was
Yeah.
you out there running through a tropical storm that through the entire night
Yeah.
and coming out with an incredible race. So I think that definitely shows your East Coast grit, that you
Love it.
embrace those kind of conditions, running
Love
in
it,
all
man. Yeah.
conditions. And I think that's really cool. It's like where you rise to the top is in those intense conditions. How would you say this kind of course compares to like a UTMB? You ran UTMB this past year, right?
Yeah, this summer I did.
Yeah, or yeah, this year, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, what sort of you know feel? I mean, because that you're running through the night there as well. What are these trails like compared to trails out there in Europe?
Have you been on any of those trails in the Alps?
No.
Carl, have you? It,
Not yet. But
yeah, there's very little in common, to be honest.
Well, Katie Scheid, like had always talked about like the New England trails having
I think
a
there's
lot in
some
common. Yeah.
yeah, I think there's more in common maybe with like the White Mountains,
Okay.
and some things up there where there's a bit longer and maybe a little bit steeper climbs and things like that. But um, yeah, the Hellgate trails are, I think, totally. I mean, the leaf, like there's not a single leaf on the UTMB course.
Okay.
So that's a huge difference. Um, the
just
climbs
wait to
are
get to the
just
Devil
way
Trail.
more, yeah. I mean, Hellgate's a much more runnable race by those standards. Um, yeah, the technicality. I mean, there's a lot of parts of UTMB that are super cruisy trails, and then there's some parts, especially later on, that are quite a bit more technical, probably than a lot, like in terms of routes and things like that, than you'd experience at Hellgate. So yeah, I mean, they're totally they're totally different. But I just think like kind of each uniquely challenging in their own way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, this is a little bit of an aside, but like, I mean, how would you say that your race at Grindstone sort of prepared you, or uh, how those maybe aligned, for those who might be looking to do that for their own trips out to, other East Coast runners here who might be looking at Grindstone as a preparatory race for, um,
Yeah, I mean,
for them.
I think when it comes to running 100 miles, like fitness is fitness, like Grindstone and UTMB are two entirely different events. I mean, I probably ran almost all of Grindstone, and I definitely can't say that about UTMB. Like, it's just two totally different styles of ultra running. Um, that's not to say that like, yeah, I mean, I think if you can do Grindstone, you can do UTMB. If you can do any 100 mile, you can do UTMB. It's just a matter of strength and fitness, and however you apply that is, uh, I think it can work for anyone. Like, I mean, I live in Salt Lake City. I have the luxury of training on trails that are relatively similar in terms of like the
Okay.
duration and steepness of climbs that you'd find at UTMB. I don't train a whole lot of specificity for the type of trails you see at Grindstone, so it's kind of like take what you can get. Um, but I mean, I think, yeah, like I said, I think if fitness is fitness, and like don't expect to run as fast at UTMB as you do at a race like Grindstone.
Yeah. Well, I've taken us off the rails here. We're in Grindstone. We're in UTMB. We're supposed to be in Hellgate. I don't know what you know. I don't know who hired this guy. Okay, so um, uh, getting back to Hellgate here a little bit. Um, we have that that midnight start. The beauty of these rugged trails. Going to be running through leaves. Started to talk about a little bit of the Hellgate eyes and things along those lines. So some people might be listening to this looking for a little bit of advice, looking for a little bit of experience on things to be aware of, gear choices, things along those lines. Um, Probably not going to get a year where we're not using headlamps. So
Oh,
let's let's get into gear a little bit here. What are you guys going to be packing, Carl? Like, what are you going to have in your pack? What are you going to be lighting with? Um, what are your gear choices looking like for how you're going to be
uh,
prepared?
in my vest, I'm definitely gonna be carrying a backup rainproof, waterproof jacket just in case, because the weather does have a tendency to shift from nice to shitty at the drop of a hat, basically. So that's important. Headlamps, I always have a backup. My primary is gonna be like I just got it. It's a Phoenix rechargeable one, but it works brilliantly. It lasts like 8 hours at like the medium setting. Um, what was your other question? Sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean basic gear choices. So is this a
Okay.
race where you're going to be like, what? I always wear gaiters, or
Oh, no, 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 God, no. No, this is, I mean, so there's a good amount of fire road. And actually, the shoes I'm going to be wearing, the Tecton X3, they have kind of that built-in gator. So
Hmm.
there is I do have that going for me. And also on the subject of Hellgate eyes, I do recommend if you don't have a prescription for glasses, buy clear safety goggles or safety like just clear frame sunglasses. I have a pair from Pit Viper that I'll be wearing at night, and also just make sure you blink. That because Hellgate Eyes, the doctor whose name I'm now forgetting, who's at every one of Horton's races, he basically said that Hellgate Eyes are caused by a lack of moisture to the eyes. So if you keep blinking, you're gonna like clear out that dust and debris and all that gets built up in there, and just make sure you keep moisturizing your eyes. That way they don't fog up. That's how I've never had to deal with Hellgate Eyes, but I'm also unlike Mike, I've had pretty good weather the 3 times I've done Hellgate. Last year was probably the best weather we've ever had, and I DNF'd, and I'm so pissed at myself for that. But knee issues will pop up when they pop up. Um, and the first year I ran it was what we call fog gate. It was
Ooh.
you literally could not see more than 5 feet in front of you. It was insane. And my dad crewing me, he had to literally like open the door of his car on the Blue Ridge Parkway and make sure that he was like riding the yellow line just to make sure he was staying in the lane. That's how bad the fog was that year. And then 2022 we started in the wet and the rain. It was I think rain lasted until like 6 or 7 in the morning. So I always like to make sure I have a waterproof jacket, backup headlamp. Um, the aid stations are not that far apart, so I wouldn't really worry about having like to carry too much water between aid stations. So and especially because there's a lot of the course that is so runnable, there's not a whole lot of time spent between aid stations. So that does make it logistically a little bit easier than a race like UTMB or Hard Rock where you're spending like 3, 4, sometimes more hours between aid stations. So
So not a
yeah,
super self-reliant one, but you want to make sure you're probably able to keep yourself warm there between those aid stations and things like that.
oh yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Stuff along those lines. Mike, you got any tips?
Maybe I'll describe what I experienced with Hellgate eyes for because I know people hear that term a lot, but um, the way I experienced it was around the time the sun started coming up, so maybe 7 and a half hours into the race. Um, I noticed that like vision was starting to get a little bit kind of hazy or almost it almost felt like there was like something in my eye that was like making my vision a little blurry. And over time, I realized there was nothing to get out of my eye. It was just that my vision was kind of turning a little bit. And um, by the end, I mean, I think by about maybe 10 hours in or so, now less than that, by like 8 or 9 hours in, like once the sun, it was daylight. I mean, I remember going through the forever section, like hunched over, like squinting, like trying to make out the trail and like still running, but not like just trying to make out the textures of the ground to make sure I didn't trip. And I remember like the last downhill, the last 3 miles or so of the race are like super cruisy downhill fire road and then onto pavement and like kind of on that fire road part. I remember still just like running because I was like in a hurry, and I think I got third that year. So it was like still like a competitive, kind of in a competitive position in the race, and I didn't want to lose that. And I just remember like running probably 7, 8 minute pace or something, but like squinting down at the ground, just trying to make out like the textures of it, because by that point it was like yeah, both eyes were just totally blurry. So it was bizarre, and then within a few hours of finishing, it was my vision was back to normal. So really bizarre experience, but that was how I experienced it. So then the following year when I came back in 2019, I had clear like sunglasses or whatever, which don't work if it's raining because they just get covered in rain and you can't see. So I ditched them at the first like cruise stop at up on the parkway there at like mile 8 or so. Um, but definitely agree with Carl. Like recommend having something like that to cover your eyes if you can. Doesn't happen to everybody, but if you're unlucky enough that it does, it kind of sucks. So definitely an important piece of the Hellgate gear list. Um, And yeah, I think like I'll probably I haven't like I don't know what we should expect next weekend yet, but um assuming it's somewhere within like a normal-ish range, I think I'll use a waterproof jacket as like my warm layer, and if it rains, then I'm already waterproof. And I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised on like a mildish year. Like you could probably be running in short sleeves and gloves or something and be totally fine. Um, so that's kind of what I'm thinking is a waterproof layer up top to as my warm layer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Right now,
it.
I think. Sorry, oh sorry, Sam.
I think we
I
were
checked the
about to
weather
say
a
the
little
same
while
thing.
ago. Check the weather.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was looking pretty mild with like some chance of rain on Saturday. That was the last time I checked. But yeah,
We'll be running
we do
through
live
it,
in here.
whatever it is. Yeah, yeah. We, deal with whatever it is. I think that's great advice, guys. I mean, um, I heard about the Hellgate eyes, and kind of taking that seriously. I think taking the waterproof seriously as well. I know at Grindstone, which is like the only long race that I've done with really poor conditions. Um, and in which I had a really massive temperature drop, 45, 50 miles in there, where I didn't have a good waterproof. And luckily, I exchanged with my pacer at the time, who was Joshua Finger, and he gave me his waterproof. His core temperature wasn't dropping right then, so we just exchanged jackets and changed everything for me. So I'm definitely going to be prepared with a much better waterproof. I'm not doing the Houdini jacket
Hmm.
for this one again, because
No,
that's all I had was
don't let
Patagonia
Oregon
Houdini.
hear you say that
Why?
because it's Patagonia.
I'm
He's a Patagonia guy.
I love my Patagonia Houdini jacket. It just was insufficient for that, and
I know.
something like when you're vulnerable at that point in time. Everybody's going to get vulnerable in the race at some point, right?
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and when you are there, it's good to have something that can keep your core temperature in a good spot. So I think that's really great advice for people who might be trying to go a little lighter. Everybody's always trying to shave weight on these things, and sometimes it doesn't pay off. uh that's the main thing there. So this race it's been competitive. It's seen a lot of great people come to this race year after year, as well as just a lot of people coming back year after year after year. um and so I just wanted to talk about some of these historical performances, just, make mention of the course record, that sort of thing. Um, so let me pull this up here. Um, yeah, we've got the course record for on the men's side is Brian Coolmo in a 10:10:38, which seems smoking fast, although the times over the past several years have been really, really quick there on the men's side. And then we've got Rachel Spalding with just under 12 hours, 11:59:06 for the course records. Um, those seem pretty stout records here. What do you guys think about those?
I'm not going anywhere near them. That's what I think. Oh, I want to try to break 12 hours, so I hope to get close to the same level that Rachel was on in that year. But yeah, 10 is way beyond my pay grade.
Okay, you're getting paid.
Uh, I'm getting paid in fun for myself.
Yeah.
There you go. Dude, I think big shout out is probably deserved to Dubova, Michael Dubova, kind of a Hellgate legend who I
Mm-hmm.
think has just over the years sort of been paving the way to show what's sort of possible on that course. Was he? Because I don't think he did. He have the record when it was like 10:42 ish. I can't remember if that was him.
I'm not
Uh,
sure how
He
far back.
he brought it down in 2020 to like a
like 10.
10:16, I
10,
want to
yeah,
say,
it's
and
like
Yeah.
then in
10:16.
sequential years he did like a 10:16, a 10:14, and a 10:12. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
so
sure.
he wasn't the 10:42 record. That was somebody else. I forget who it was
Yeah, I
now.
think so. Yeah.
Okay. But in any case, yeah, like you said, like I think 3 years in a row, then he ran basically plus or minus 1 minute of like 10:15 or 10:14. Um, and I mean, I just thought that was really, really cool, really, really consistent. And I mean, I think if you look at his races, he ran like really, really evenly and like well paced runs. So shout out to Dubova for like, I think showing what's possible on that course because like lowering it, I mean, over 30, like probably 30 minutes basically from the previous course record. Like that's a huge step. Um, and then Como, he's a buddy of mine out here, lives here in Salt Lake. He went out, I think the last 2 years. I want to say he might have been second place 2 years ago, and then he went back last year and ripped it down to 10:10. Um,
Wow, yeah.
yeah, and then those women's course records, or the women's course record 11:59. Rachel's also a friend of mine and Leah's. Who also like took multiple stabs and showed some really steady improvement at Hellgate. Like that's somebody who you could probably learn a lot from, who clearly like was a student of Hellgate and really passionate about the race and brought her PR down. I think consecutively like 3 or 4 years in a row um, down to that sub 12 course record. Um,
Yeah, she
yeah,
has. Yeah, she has two of the top 10 times. They're on the men's side between those two guys. They've got five of the top 10 times.
that's
So
awesome.
you got a lot of people
Yeah.
coming back and really trying to get it right.
Totally.
Really trying to, you know, or just loving the race that much. That's clear as well.
It was 2 years ago in 2022. I ran my then well my well, still my PR. I ran 12:15. I came in 12th male, and I got to the finish line, and Horton said, and Horton's like, I told Horton's like, yeah, that was a 27-minute PR for me. And it's like, yeah, and you were still outside the top 10. What does that tell you? It's like these dudes are fucking fast. It's just there's a lot of fast dudes coming to this race. It really brings a lot of competition, and it's good to see. Like like you said, there's not a whole lot of big name races on the East Coast that draw the kind of competition, except for like maybe JFK, which that's a completely different ballgame.
Oh yeah,
So
Totally.
that's a whole different race,
yeah.
in every single way. So guys, yeah, just as we're finishing up here, what are your personal goals for the race returning here? What are you looking to get out of it? Um, let's start with you, Carl.
So like I said, I DNF last year, so I want to get redemption. Time wise, like I said, I want to break 12 hours. I've gotten fairly close. I ran a 12:42 and then a 12:15. So I do want to break that to get over that hurdle and break that 12-hour barrier. If I can get top 10, that'd be great. That being said, top 10 last year, I think you had to run like less than 11:30. So it'd
Really?
be a big step for
Wow.
me to go that fast. Yeah, last year was probably the best weather we've ever had. It was a really stacked field, so it was very competitive. So, but yeah, that's my goals. Just break 12, finish, and have fun.
Nice.
Enjoy the night, man. Carpe
Oh
nocte.
yeah.
How about you, Mike?
Um, it's hard to say. I mean, I wanna have the best run I can from the Hellgate gate to Camp Bethel. So, um, I mean, I know Brian Colmo very well, and I know Dubova pretty well too. And like, I don't. There's no reason I shouldn't believe that I can run somewhere around that 10-hour mark.
Awesome.
Which I think would be really cool on like my best day. But I have my best day at maybe like 40% of the races that I run, maybe less.
Mm.
So time wise, that's definitely like on my mind. But ultimately, I just want to go out there and have a blast and soak it all in and have the best 66.6 miles that I can. So, it'd be cool to win it again, obviously, but I know there's going to be some stiff competition to do that. So yeah, just kind of get the most out of myself, see where that puts me both competitively and time wise.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I too, I'll be racing down there with both of you, as you guys know. Um, Personally, I'm hoping to have I'm hoping to have a good day down there. I think I'm in good shape. I'm hoping to exercise some of the demons from my previous races here. I've not put together a good race in some time. I've put a lot of pressure on myself. I've done a lot of things wrong, especially from a nutritional standpoint. And so I'm looking at this race as a way to try to execute one really well. And that's really what I'm hoping for. I don't have a whole lot of time goals in mind. Um, or I do expect that if I am careful and efficient, that I'll be in the thick of it at the top of the race as well. And I don't want to take myself out of it, because that's what I've done in the past several races. I've taken myself out of it, and I really don't want to do that this time.
Dude, I
Um,
saw the way you blasted the last, what was it, like last 100K of Grindstone, like whatever it was. I know you had some troubles there in the middle, and then just completely
yeah,
blasted it.
yeah. I mean, I definitely closed well, but I was so far behind at that point, and that's what I really don't want to do. So I also closed well at my most recent race at Twisted Branch too. I mean, but when the middle of the race, you just take yourself out of it by 2 hours or whatever it is that you do. There's not much you can't kick that hard. So, well, anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me here tonight. I know that we're approaching the time that we got to go. I hope to spend some time with both of you out there, get to know this race with you, get to know you both better, and I just really appreciate having you here on with me.
Dude, one more
Been a
plug
pleasure.
for the Hellgate community. That's one of the best parts about this race too. It's just like it's got its whole cast of characters, right? There's like, I mean, Jordan Chang, dude, is going for I think number 18 this year, something like that.
Okay,
Like, and he's
nice.
And
usually like on the podium or deep into the top 10. You got like the Chris Roberts, John Anderson, like constant battles and everything. Like Horton himself, obviously brings so much charisma and character to this event. So it's a really, really cool gathering of and cast of characters, I think, just in the woods at midnight. So
Yeah, I'm
one more
sure we're
plug for
gonna
that.
meet lots of people.
shout out to
Yeah,
the guys who have run every single edition, all 21 and now 22. There's five guys still remaining who have,
That's
who have done
amazing.
every single one. So,
it's insane, intense. Well, thanks so much, guys. I will let you go now, and thanks to everybody who's been listening out there. If you can, subscribe or do that kind of stuff. So, thanks, and happy trails, guys.